What is this Red Sox bullpen going to look like in 2026? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Sea Radio. My name is Corbin, and thank you very much for clicking on this video. Over the last few seasons here, the Red Sox have kind of made it a tradition to be able to take relievers from the New York Yankees and make them mainstays in the Red Sox bullpen. It's not every single season, that's for sure, but 2020, the Red Sox got Garrett Whitlock from the Yankees in the Rule 5 draft. That guy ended up being, I would say, a pretty big mainstay in the Red Sox bullpen. In 2023, they traded Alex Verdugo for Greg Weissert and Richard Fitts. Weissert has become, for better or worse, I think there have been moments this season where you could look at negatively for Weissert, but I overall think Greg Weissert has been a legitimate positive for this Red Sox team. I mean, Richard Fitts, I think at some point is going to end up being an everyday major league player. I don't know where that ends up being, whether that's in sort of this, six-man taxi type starter, or probably, in my opinion, as a bullpen arm. But regardless, Red Sox have been pretty successful taking pitchers from the New York Yankees. Now, the prediction here is that the Red Sox aren't done yet, that they're still going to go after some of these Yankee pitchers, because we got our recent prediction from Mass Live's own Chris Cotillo, who recently talked about and broke down where the Red Sox bullpen is at right now and what the outlook could be heading into 2026. Now, one of the biggest things he mentioned, which I think a lot of us would agree with, is that the bullpen doesn't need a ton of work. This season, the Red Sox bullpen was the best overall ERA bullpen in the entire American League and the second best ERA bullpen in the entire sport. Your big dogs, Whitlock and Chapman, are still here for at least 2026, and then beyond that, you have a ton of controllable talent that you can fit all over the place. I mean, Weissert, Murphy, Slayton, Bernie, Kelly. I have a rough feeling that Hicks is going to be a pretty heavy topic of conversation this year, regardless of how he does. And then on top of that, you have all this young talent in the minor leagues as well. Right now, a lot of them are starting pitching prospects, but as Chris puts it, the hard thing about projecting relief prospects is that the best relievers are, with some exceptions, usually failed starters. I mean, think about it, right? Fitz, Dobbins, Criswell, Harrison, Tolley, Early, Perellis, Sandlin, Witherspoon. I could keep going, but the moral of the story here is that all of these guys are not going to end up in your rotation. You only have 5 spots. 2 of them are already filled up with either Brian Bayo or Garrett Crochet. Your hope is that you get at least one more big name starter. So there's only 2 positions on this team for starting pitchers going forward. And that's kind of being generous, right? I do think there's a world in which the Red Sox end up with 2 starters this offseason and end up with 1 spot for what was that? 8 of these guys, right? So all of a sudden, you're going to have to squeeze some of this talent at the major league level, because ultimately what you want to do is have your most talented pitchers getting innings at the big league level and not just simply wasting away in AAA hoping for their opportunity in this rotation. So you're looking at it and you're saying there's not really a ton of room to make a bunch of huge improvements for the Red Sox bullpen. So what do they actually end up doing? Well, that's what Chris Cotillo tried to predict here. Well, according to Chris Cotillo, what the Red Sox really need this offseason is some experienced veteran arms in this bullpen, which kind of makes some sense, right? Because you've got Chapman, you've got Bernie, you've got Whitlock, I would say, is a veteran at this point, right? And then you've got a whole lot of really young, inexperienced talent. I mean, I'm not going to go over the list again, but you guys understand what I'm saying here, right? To go out and get, a couple of these veteran names, a couple of these guys who, you've got Whit in the 8th, you've got Chapman in the 9th. What about the 6th and 7th? Can you use a guy that's, been here for a few years, let's say 8-10 seasons in Major League Baseball, just simply somebody who's been in a whole lot of situations? Yeah, I think that could make a lot of sense here. What he predicts is that the Red Sox go out and they sign 2 guys. The first signing they make is to bring back Justin Wilson. Now, personally, I'm curious about this one. One, because I don't know if the Red Sox end up actually targeting a left-handed arm. I mean, think about it, right? You've got Bernie, who's a veteran arm already, who I just mentioned. They've got Murphy behind him, and then you have what, 1,000 different left-handed pitching prospects to choose from, right? You could absolutely find a way to make one of them a high-leverage left-handed reliever, right? So the second thing here is that if they do want to go after a left-handed arm, I'd be curious to see what kind of debate it is going to be between Justin Wilson and Steven Matz, because on the surface, if you compare their 2025 seasons, it's actually a pretty interesting conversation. I mean, Matz is a bit better in almost every single category. He's better in ERA, he was better in innings, which is kind of unfair fair because he was a bit of a multi-inning guy in St. Louis before the trade, but what stands out to me is the walk rate. Last season, Steven Matz had just a 3.6% walk rate. That is almost 3 times less than Justin Wilson. I think overall, Wilson had the better stuff here, but one of the big things with this Red Sox bullpen that despite their ERA really stood out in terms of a negative is that in these bigger situations that they were put into, they would end up walking a couple of guys, right? How many times during the 6th or 7th inning would it start with a walk, or would there be a man on first base with 1 out and all of a sudden it's bases loaded because he can't find the strike zone, right? And I think that's something this Red Sox bullpen could really improve upon. Steven Matz was much better this season than Justin Wilson, but at the same time too, Steven Matz also didn't miss a ton of bats. This season, Justin Wilson had a strikeout rate that was almost 10% more than Steven Matz. So you sit there and you say, which one do you favor? Right? Do you favor the guy who's going to pound the strike zone, who's going to generate contact, or do you favor the guy who's going to be a little bit wild, but he's certainly going to still get that swing and miss? It's an interesting conversation, like I said. Now, on top of that, somehow, Steven Matz is 3 years younger than Justin Wilson. Now, if you put them side by side, just simply mugshot-like, I would have told you that Justin Wilson was a bit younger. But I kind of forgot that Justin Wilson's actually pushing 40 right now. Next year will be his age 38 season. The ultimate question I think this is going to boil down to is, are the Red Sox really looking to sort of save some money in the bullpen to bolster other areas in their roster, right? There are a couple of things that the Red Sox could need. Justin Wilson is definitely the cheaper option. This guy's predicted to get around $1.5 million, while Matz is projected to get around $3.5. I do get why Chris Cotillo is predicting that Wilson's the name that comes back for this Red Sox team, right? It makes some sense on the surface, but I am curious if this is even something that they target, or if there's someone just a little bit maybe more intriguing on the open market that could be had for just a little bit more money. But that's not the reason you clicked on this video, is it? The other name that Chris Cotillo predicts the Red Sox to go out and pick up is Luke Weaver. And this is where that whole Yankee stealing thing comes into play here, because over the last 2 seasons, Luke Weaver has really sort of developed into, or not even developed, I would say figured himself out into a legitimately solid arm for the New York Yankees, rocking a 3.21 ERA over those 2 seasons and 148 and 2/3 innings. So it's not exactly like he's not getting into a ton of games over there. He had a very similar 3.58 FIP, which is a nice thing to see. A sub-1 whip, which is always fantastic. It means that he's allowing less than 1 hit or walk per inning that he pitches at .969 and a 126 ERA plus, about 26% better than your average major league reliever. What I think makes a ton of sense for the sort of Red Sox mold of bullpen arms is that this is a dude who misses a ton of bats, with a 10.6 strikeouts per 9 and pounds the zone with strikes as well, with a 2.8 walks per 9. And the interesting thing about Weaver is that Chris Cotillo kind of paints a picture here of, oh, it's kind of hay in a haystack, right? Where you could sort of just toss a penny into a well and there's a billion other pennies in there that you could just pick up, right? Where you're going to be able to find these guys all over the place. But Weaver is predicted to be sort of the higher end of that haystack, right? Where you're going to have to spend some legitimate money to get him here on your ball club. Now, Spotrac predicts that Luke Weaver is going to end up being about a $10 million player. And again, that conversation starts to pop up right now, right? Where it's sort of, okay, if the Red Sox have these areas where they need to bolster their team in a much bigger way. I mean, you're looking at the rotation, you're looking at the lineup, and you're saying this is where you're probably going to end up spending some money here. Is spending $10 million on Luke Weaver, who has had a really solid last couple of years, has had some issues over the last couple of years as well, going to be worth the investment, right? Because we sit here with the Red Sox, and as much as they had a pretty good offseason last year where they did spend some legitimate money, and then going into the season, you extended Crochet, you extended Anthony, you extended Campbell, you shelled out some money last year, you made some big moves last season, but that sort of sour taste, I think it's still in a lot of Red Sox fans' mouths, where you're sitting here and you're saying, there's probably, a monetary budget that's being set for Craig Breslow that he's allowed to operate under, right? $10 million being allocated to a bullpen that maybe doesn't need a whole lot of work done to it. Is that going to affect affect their ability to go out and spend on a starting pitcher, on a free agent bat that could be in the middle of this order, right? And that to me is what worries me about Luke Weaver. I think the Red Sox would really enjoy having Luke Weaver on this baseball team, and I totally understand why Chris Cotillo put it out there as this could be a guy the Red Sox end up targeting. Again, sort of fits the mold here, right? He's a guy with plus velo. He's got really great off-speed stuff, and that's sort of exactly what the Red Sox are looking for right now. And I know it's ludicrous to say, but I do think money could end up being the ultimate sort of breaking point for this Red Sox team. I don't know that they're going to be willing to spend $10 million on a bullpen arm. If you're going to plan on shelling out, let's say $35, $40 million for a bat, and then maybe potentially $27, $28 million, hopefully a little bit more for a rotational arm, you sit there and you say, you could probably make someone who's making 1.5 or 3.5 or $5 million work in the bullpen without really having to take away from the ability to do the other things. Overall, I think the Red Sox bullpen's a bit of a mystery right now, right? It's like trying to solve a problem without all the clues in there that you need, and that's mostly because other areas of this team are more obvious. I mean, you take a look at this starting rotation, you say, okay, that's in demand of another top-line starting pitcher to slot right behind Garrett Crochet. You take a look at the lineup and you say, okay, that's going to demand a middle-of-the-order bat with some thump that's going to elevate this team to the next level. The bullpen's not exactly the same. You've got those big guys in there, right? You know that your mainstay guys are going to be in this bullpen. What it needs is just simply some supplementation, which is exactly what high leverage bullpens end up needing, right? And obviously, if you have the opportunity to give yourself another high caliber arm that you can use in late game situations, you got to take it, right? But you also can get away with, okay, let's just sort of, fix the fringes and rely on some of this young talent to really sort of be the bolster that you're looking for 2026 to help them continue to be one of the best bullpens in the entire sport, which is why I don't hate the idea of the Red Sox coming away with Justin Wilson and Luke Weaver, right? They're not the most exciting names available on the free agent market, but I could see why they would be beneficial to the Boston Red Sox. Again, I think it all comes down to how much are the Red Sox willing to invest monetarily in this bullpen, especially if you're going to end up trading/signing another bigger arm that's going to demand a higher salary in the rotation, and then trading or signing for a higher bat that's going to demand a higher salary in this lineup, right? And so to me, I think Chris Cotillo kind of nails it, where it's just sort of like it's as good as anyone's guess. Right? It could be Kirby Yates, it could be Devin Williams, it could be a billion different people that the Red Sox end up bringing in here, and I think they all kind of do the same thing. They all kind of give you that veteran experience, they all kind of give you that sort of mid-leverage to medium-high leverage relieving type option that you can utilize at any point here. Ultimately, I think the goal would be for the Red Sox to develop this bullpen enough where you don't need to go out there and supplement them with these sort of lower arm type names, right? If you can get Justin Slayton to be that sort of medium-high leverage reliever, well, then you don't really need a Luke Williams. Or if you get Bernie or Murphy or Tolley or whoever into that sort of high-leverage lefty role this season, there's not really going to be a need to go out and get a Justin Wilson or a Steven Matz or whatever, right? And I think that's ultimately what the Red Sox are trying to do here. So I don't hate this idea, and I don't think a lot of you guys are going to hate this idea either. I do think a lot of you guys enjoy crapping on Red Sox ownership, so by saying that they are going to end up being cheap in the bullpen, I think a lot of you guys are going to latch onto that, but that's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think? Are you guys sitting there waiting to pounce on this Red Sox ownership, saying they're cheap by not going and getting a legitimate high-leverage bullpen arm, or are you sitting there saying you don't really need it? Right? Bolster what you need to bolster and then focus on other areas of this team that feel like they're more important right now. Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It just simply helps out a ton, and it's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.